you know, there's a mega Bob fan named Bill Pagel in Minnesota who owns Bob's childhood home, and I visited that in the preparation for the movie in Hibbing, Minnesota, and on the lyric sheet of a Woody Guthrie song called 1917 Massacre, he had written the lyrics to Song to Woody, which is in the same melody as 1917 Massacre. He had written it on the record, and on the back had also drawn a drawing that said, Bob in New York, Bob in Chicago rather, bound for glory, meeting Woody in NYC. So in today's parlance, we call it self-manifestation, something that's, I would say, more common today, but in the world of Bob Dylan, for me, is fascinating because he didn't have the archetypes of a career he wanted to chase, the way I could look at, Joaquin Phoenix or Leonardo DiCaprio or Daniel Day-Lewis and go, oh, these are the guys I actually want to try to be like in my own career. He was really coming up with it as he went along. And so that's a long, complicated answer to just say, I feel like I could easily relate to, Bob's desire for something greater and to have a sort of vague image of what it was in his head, but not knowing what it was, but knowing where he needed to go to get there, which for me was not in the music world, but was similarly in New York and cutting my teeth and, off-Broadway theater there, and Bernie Telsey's casting office. You know about Bernie Telsey? Yeah.
YouTube, is the main vector of investigation. It's actually amazing what's on YouTube. I think it would have taken me a year of work. 20 years ago, if we'd done this film, it would have taken a year of work to get to all the interviews and the concerts and the performances on YouTube. On YouTube, you can find Pete Seeger playing in a Berlin cafe in 1963, and it sounds like a joke, but it's actually astonishing how much you can access so easily now of a person whose work was important, and so that was actually helpful in terms of just ingesting him as a voice, as a posture, but apart from that, to be honest, what you're referencing things that are talking about his significance and folk music, and I think our director here is a really terrific director, but he's also a great psychotherapist, and he told all of us, he said, like, just abandon the history, abandon the weight of the reputation and the place in our cultural history, and let's just deal with a person who meets a young person that he admires and wants to support. And let's deal with, people who fall in love but are still competitive with each other. Let's deal with basic human relationship interactions. That's where we build the stakes and forget about the rest. And that was very liberating, I think, for all of us, to be liberated from the weight of all that you were referring to. You can't act that stuff, and so, but it's great to have the person at the helm saying to you, let that go,
To the first part, I don't know what the story, I would take it outside what perhaps the usual response would be about, his cultural lessons or political lessons or like the social lessons that come from Bob Dylan's early work. And I would say more, if there's any lesson for youth, it's, an embrace of individuality, an embrace of a personal creative spirit and creative liberty in who you find yourself to be. Because, Bob Dylan literally found his name. He found his art, he found his expression, and he was a fabulist, and he had several origin stories, and at one point he was Blind Boy Grunt, and at one point he was Robert Zimmerman, and then he landed on Bob Dylan. So I think the non-evident lesson, at least the one I would take, is one of self-creation, and not to be limited by what is so limiting to most of us intuitively, which is to think, oh, I am who I've been, and secondly, what was the second thing? I can't remember.
Cosa ha ritrovato
Oh, my own,
se
yeah,
stesso,
my own personal
se ha
connection.
trovato
Yeah,
qualcosa
none
in
at
se
all,
stesso
man,
nel
none at all.
personaggio.
No, I'm kidding. No, I mean, you know, I feel like in the process of making it, I always talk about this D.A. Pennebaker movie, Don't Look Back, and, you know, as Jim so beautifully said, there's the exterior work you're doing that's not like the interior work. As far as the exterior work I was doing, I was so hyper-focused on the visuals from that documentary and all the footage I could find that were like imprinted on my soul. And I would say I found more of myself after the fact than during. That's to say that he's a huge influence day to day now. And Edward and I speak about this a lot, you know, of how you want to conduct yourself, you know, in settings like this. And I think it's a different media landscape now and a different, like, I think if you get the opportunity to be in movies or make music and the opportunity to talk about it, it's just a different thing. So I'm happy to talk about it, not necessarily in a straightforward way, but like to do the actual, you know, talking and promotion, I guess, of the movie. But the way he would guard himself, the way he would guard his, the way he would guard anything in his life not related to the expression of his work and the music. And I think down to the fact that I haven't met him, you know, like, you know what I mean? He didn't need to meet me, you know what I mean? It's like, it's besides the point for him. I think the point for him is getting to make his music and getting work on his art.